What is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing 3 must-know tips for the pattern mode, and these are actually exclusive to the SP404-MK2. So hopefully these tips will help your workflow, hopefully they will enable you to make beats faster and easier using the pattern area, and I think these are just really useful tips. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is that you can change the length of a pattern after you've recorded it. Now this is going to save you a bunch of time because basically you don't have to go and record another pattern to make it twice as long. You can just duplicate it using the functionality built into the SPs. You can see here that A5 is 2 bars long, and I'll turn this volume down just so I can talk while this is playing. You can see here it says 2.4 at the bottom, so it's 2 bars long, and it gets to 2.4 and then goes back to the start, so that's great. Now I'm going to stop that, and what I'm going to do is while that pad is highlighted, and you can see that it's going to tell you what pattern you've got highlighted on the screen here when the pattern isn't playing. So I've got A5 here. I'm going to go to pattern edit, and you can see we're presented with this interface. Now this is the length of the pattern here on the screen visualized, and we can go ahead using these 2 dials. Now be really careful here, because if you touch this dial, the second one along, that's going to change the BPM. We don't want to do that at all, so we're going to be sticking with these 2. And what we want to do is we can either change the start point, so you can see there it's changed the L, which I assume means loop point, and that's going to do the second half of the bar, so it just do 1 bar from the end. Or we can change the end point and do the same thing, so we can make it shorter that way. Doesn't matter how long this is going to be. If you've got more bars, you'll have more options for start points and end points, obviously. The smallest you can do is 1 bar. So that's how you shorten it, but if you want to lengthen it, it's really easy to do. You can see here there's a menu option, and that's going to be accessed via the value wheel here. So we're going to click that, and we're going to press duplicate. You can see here we've got some menu options. We're going to go ahead and do duplicate, and what this is going to do is literally double what is already there. So we'll click that, and you can see because of the SSD inside here, that just does it instantaneously basically, which is so good. So now we have a 4-bar loop. So if I press this, again, there won't be sound, but you'll be able to see the numbers. You can see now we've got 4.4, and this is going past 2.4 now, look, onto bar 3, and then onto bar 4, and back around to the start. So that's perfect. It's doubled up the length of the pattern and meant that we've got more room to play with. Now I'm just going to quickly go in and show you making it smaller. So I'm going to take the first 2 bars. You can see here it says 2.4 again. Going to hit menu, and I'm going to do crop this time. So instead of duplicate, you do crop to make it smaller. Going to crop that, and it's going to ask you, are you sure? Okay. Come out of that, and let's do 5 again. And you can see here it's 2.4 length again. It's going to get to 2.4 and go back to the start. So that's super handy. Say you've recorded a 2-bar loop, and then you've decided that you want to lay something over the top which lasts longer than 2 bars. You can go in, duplicate it, and it just gives you a load of flexibility with the pattern editor, and I think that's a really nice feature that you have to know about. Okay, the next one is using subpad. Now I will put the volume up for this one because it's going to be useful. And what subpad can do in the pattern area is allow you to change between patterns instantaneously. Now one of the features on the SP, and this was on the SX as well, I'm not sure about earlier generations, but when you play a pattern, you can press and cue the next pattern so that it automatically plays afterwards. So I'll give you a demonstration here. I'm going to press pad 1, and while pad 1 is playing, I'm going to go ahead and press 15, and you will see at the end that it automatically cues it. This will start flashing to say this is going to play next, and then it will play that pattern without any interruption, and then just keep looping that pattern until you choose another one. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this now. Press 15 and it's flashing. You can see it comes in. And let's go ahead and go back to 1. So there you go. It's a really nice feature, that, because it allows you to queue things up. But what if we want to change between something instantaneously? Well, you can do that, and as I mentioned, it's using subpads. So I'll do a demonstration here. I'm just very abruptly going to change to 15 and some of the other patterns just to show you guys. Obviously this isn't an actual practical example, but I just want to show you guys that this really does work. So I'll do a quick demonstration now like this. And you can see there I'm able to change between any pattern that I want. I was pressing and holding subpad, and it will do it instantaneously. Now one practical use that I've already found for this is doing an intro to a beat, which is quite nice. So if I hold subpad You can do this kind of effect, which I really like. Okay, so you can build a little intro like that, but one thing I will note is that this isn't quantized at all. So if your timing is slightly out, it will make the whole thing slightly out. I'll show you an example of that. You can see there, so it is down to you to get the timing right. Unfortunately, it's not quantized. It'd be really cool if it was. But yeah, it just gives you a lot more flexibility with patterns because it allows you to change between them instantly. And as I showed you there, that's one realistic example of how you could use that to good effect with your beats. Okay, the third and final one, I think this is a real must-know one, and that is that when you have a loop or a pattern and there's a sample on it which exceeds the length of the pattern, it will cut off that sample if you change patterns. Now, I hope you're still with me after that sentence because it's quite confusing, but I've got an example lined up here so hopefully you can see. Let me show you this loop which has a siren which comes in. And when the loop goes back around to number 1, you will hear that the siren keeps ringing out and naturally fades out because it's got a fade on it. And it sounds completely natural, so I'll show you this now. So hopefully you could hear there, it was ringing out, it sounded completely normal, but listen to what happens when I change to another pattern. So keep your ear out for that siren and listen to what happens when I go to 15 after 9. Hopefully you could hear there that the siren completely cuts out. So when you change to another pattern, it can't recognise that that sound needs to carry on playing because it's moved to a different one. And it cuts it out. Now I think that's really annoying, and luckily there is a solution to this that means that this doesn't happen, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So if you go to Shift and 13, which is Utility, and you go into the first option using the value wheel here, you go into System, and you scroll down about halfway down this menu, and you can see here is the option PTN Change Mode, so Pattern Change Mode, and you can see by default it's set to Mark II. We are on the Mark II, so that kind of makes sense. But you can change this, and we can go to an older setting, which is SX. So I'm going to change to SX, and I'm going to come out of there, and we're going to go back into the patterns. I'm going to hit that pad again, which has the siren, but listen out for it this time when I change to pad 15, because that siren now should ring out naturally and sound really nice. So let's go ahead and try this one. And yeah, as you could hear there guys, that worked way better because it didn't cut off the siren, it allowed it to ring out, and that just gelled those two loops together really nicely and made the beats sound so much better. So as you can hear, that can really make the difference and make your beats sound a lot smoother and a lot cleaner.